See the weight you carry, it's written in your eyes, the kind of ache that takes up every corner of your mind. You're sitting in the silence, drowning in the doubt. I've been sitting there before, I know there's a way out. The world feels like it's caving in. Those dark thoughts, don't let them win. Just stay. Just stay. It's almost more than you can take. Please just stay. I swear the light will find you someday, and you'll be glad you stayed. So just stay.
Hey guys, we're so glad to be back with you guys for another week. This week we have a special guest with us. Her name is Katherine.
Hi guys.
And we're really excited to have her here. She has a really, really amazing story, and we're really excited to hear her story and get the little tidbits that she's learned along the way. So, Katherine, do you mind introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Katherine and I am 24 years old. I just turned 24 in June, and I used to live in California, but I moved from California in January back to Idaho. I used to live here, but then I came back and now I live with my mom and my sister and my family. And I just had a baby in May, so I'm a new mother. She's about to be 2 months on the 12th. So yeah, I'm just right now just momming, doing motherhood and taking care of my child, and just yeah, I also create content on social media. So if you guys want to follow me on social media or check me out, you guys can check me out at Katherines so you guys can get to know a little bit more of who I am and what I like to do and who I am as a person. Yeah.
That's awesome. What was the big reason that you decided to reach out to us about the podcast?
I reached out to you guys because, one, I know Brandy on a person.
Mm-hmm.
She's friends with my brother, and I have a lot of love for her. Like, I don't see her all the time, but from a distance, like, I admire her for the woman that she is, and I know her story, and like, I have a lot of love in my heart for her. So I don't know you on a personal level, but obviously if you're doing this with Brandy, like, it makes me happy to know that she has someone doing this with. But I admire what you guys are doing. Like, I admire that you guys are trying to make a difference in the world and trying to reach out to people and trying to help people with what they're going through in life, because I feel like we're all going through something hard in our lives, and things that nobody knows of, and sometimes it's nice to have other people that share what they're experiencing or what they've learned with others, so that they're not feeling alone, or they can feel heard, or they can feel like, oh, okay, they're experiencing that, so I'm not alone. So one, because obviously I know Brandy and I love what you guys are doing. I have a podcast of my own. I'm just not consistent like you guys are. I enjoy helping others out, but also, like, I wanted to share my story because I feel like what I've gone through, I know it's my own personal experience, and like sometimes others won't understand what you're going through until they're in your shoes. So I just feel like it's nice to share those things with others so that they can feel like that comfort, that they're not alone in this world. we're all just going through something hard in life. And I feel like it's sometimes nice to connect with others in the world, and especially doing this on social media. I feel like you guys can get a following and reach people who like admire you guys and who love you guys in your guys' life. And hearing different stories from people, I feel like it can at least impact 1 to 3 or 5 people, whoever it touches. So yeah, I'm just here to basically just share a little bit of my story. I know I can't share all my life, but if I can share like glimpse of my life and what I've gone through and what I've experienced and what I felt, the kind of grief that I've experienced myself, because I know that grief comes different through everyone's life. Everyone suffers in their own way and goes through pain in their own way, but I feel like if I felt that way in my life, I know that there's other women and mothers out there who have felt the same way, and maybe they're afraid to speak it, or they feel alone, or they feel like they can't seek anybody, or they feel like there's no one to be there to listen to them. Because at times, even when I share what I'm feeling with people, I sometimes feel misunderstood because they're not feeling what I'm feeling, if that makes sense. They're not feeling what my emotions are feeling or what my thoughts are thinking and processing. Sometimes it's easier said than done, like, oh, everything's okay, everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry, things are gonna get better. But in the moment, you feel like your life is just falling apart. Things are never gonna change, and there's no help out in the world. You're by yourself. So.
Katherine, I know that your life this last year kind of did a 180.
Yeah.
Your lifestyle changed big time. And it sounds like you've been going through the struggle. One of the biggest things we've learned from doing this podcast is that the loss of human connection really affects our mental health.
Yes.
And having a baby kind of cuts you off from the world that you knew.
Yes.
And you become more isolated, and the people that surround you are different than what you're used to, your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you reached out, I just felt like there was somebody out there that needed to hear this part of the story of being a new mother, the journey to becoming a new mother, and then the mental health battle that comes from postpartum.
Yeah.
And from the struggle of adjusting to your priorities changing.
Yes.
Completely. So if you don't mind sharing, what has this last year looked like to you?
Well, my year has definitely changed a lot. When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't expect that news. Like, I was already 2 months pregnant, and I was like, wow, like I'm gonna do this, like it's gonna happen. So I knew that my life was gonna change in September of last year, so September of 2024. Every day when I'd wake up, it felt like I was numb to life. Like, I didn't know myself no more, and I didn't know what was gonna happen, but I knew that it was the right decision to make. I was like, regardless of how things were happening in that moment in my life, I knew that I had to become a mother, and I knew that it was meant for me. So when I found out that I was pregnant, my whole life changed, because in that moment I knew, because I was living by myself. Well, I was living with my dad, but basically by myself, like in a condo, and I was paying rent and I was paying bills and everything. California is expensive, so I was like, wow, like I'm gonna have to make a lot of like big decisions and life changes, because I can't afford, like I could barely afford myself, because all these bills and all these expenses. And now I'm gonna bring a child into the world. So like, I have my mom in Idaho, and she has a place for me, and I know that things would be different if I was to move out there. And I literally, in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to move to Idaho. Like, there's no, even though I wanted to stay out there, obviously I moved out there for a reason, and I didn't expect to come back to Idaho. Idaho is a beautiful, beautiful place to live. It's very peaceful and everything, but I just felt like I wanted to be in California. But anyway, I decided to move out here, so I moved out here in January. I had to leave my job because I worked for Costco in California, but they didn't accept my transfer. So I had to leave my job, and then, which was a sacrifice because no income, and it was going to be tough on me. But my mom was like, don't worry about it. I'm going to help you out. You're okay. Everything's going to be okay. Just pack your stuff up, and I'm going to go get you, and we're going to come over here to Idaho, and everything's going to be okay. In the moment of everything, once again, I felt numb. I just felt like, okay, I decided to be a mother, and it didn't work out the way that People normally see it like with a partner or a married spouse or whatever. I did have to go through the process as a single mother. And that hit me even harder because, I mean, I never expected as a 23-year-old woman who has all these like goals and aspirations in life and who always seen myself as someone like, oh, I'm going to be married and I'm going to have the right partner and I'm going to like have kids with the right partner and everything. Like, I didn't ever expect for it to come the way it came. And I think that that was something that hurt me a lot and brought a lot of pain and sorrow into my life because not only was it shocking for me to know the news, and by the way, you guys, my baby is the biggest and greatest gift of life. She's a blessing, and she has nothing to do with how I feel. It's just, this is how I felt in the process, and this is how I feel now. But she has nothing to do with my emotions and my thoughts or anything like that.
I like how you keep your individual identity, which is hard to do as a mom.
Yes.
And there is some mom guilt. Like you want to be honest, but you also feel guilty for having certain emotions that you have surrounding having a baby and a lifestyle shift. I like that you can separate yourself and say, this has nothing to do with her. This is my emotions. And I think that's very healthy. And it's teaching your daughter that one day she can have the strength to also have her own emotions and to own them.
Yes.
So it's a great example.
Yeah, I feel like, because when I share my story with people, they sometimes are like, but your daughter's a blessing, like, don't look at it like that. But I'm like, yes, of course she's a blessing. A child's a gift from God. But my emotions and feelings are valid. What I experienced through everything is valid. I know that with time I'm gonna heal and things are gonna change, and I know that through this process I'm gonna become a stronger individual and also a mother. I'm not just gonna keep living through what I've experienced. I know that in the end, the past is the past, and you need to learn to surrender and let go of it. Sometimes it's hard. Once again, my life changed so quick, like super fast. Once I found out I was pregnant, I was like, whoa, my life is just changing a little, like everything is just, going so fast. So even when I moved over here, it was hard on me because I would literally sleep my life away because I just felt like there was no purpose in me. Because once again, I'm trying to pursue something as well, like what you guys are doing. I enjoy helping others. I enjoy bringing impact in people's lives, sharing stories, sharing experiences, and helping others feel heard and seen and not feel alone in this world. And in the moment, I was like, I don't feel like the best version of myself anymore. I'm at my lowest. And I was like, how am I going to feel like myself again? How am I going to go through these days of life feeling like there's purpose in me and feeling like I'm okay, And I didn't feel that way. And it snows over here, so it's even more depressing. The weather is like, oh my goodness. So I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't get sun. I would leave from like 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. I wouldn't get up. I'd get up to use the restroom and then I'd come back to bed and I'd just go to sleep because I just felt like it was hard on me. The shift was hard on me. I know a lot of people don't plan to have kids. It just happens. But it's easier when you have a partner, when you have the person that you're trying to create a life with and you're trying to build a family with and everything. So I think it made it hard to know that I wasn't going to go through this process with someone. So I felt very alone and I felt weak in the moment. But anyway, it's been very tough through the experience. And I feel like postpartum is a thing, it's real. And a lot of people try to dismiss it and be like, no, it's not even a thing. Women are just exaggerating. People don't know what women experience. Women are literally warriors and they're so strong. And now that I've become a mom, it made me love mothers even more than I've ever loved mothers because we literally are so strong and we have to be strong even in the times where we don't feel strong, where we feel so weak and we don't want to get up out of bed or we don't want to do anything. We just want to lay down and just like be away from the world or be away from doing things. But when you become a mother, you literally have to get up out of bed and take care of your baby and cook, clean, take care of them, feed them, change them, bathe them. You can't even take care of yourself because you have to take care of all these other priorities. Sometimes as a mother, it's so challenging and so hard to still work on becoming the best version of myself. But I tell myself that I can't give up on myself because if I don't continue to work on becoming the best version of myself, I won't be a good mom to my daughter, if that makes sense. Like, I have to take care of me. I have to take care of me in order to take care of her. And by doing so is by still working out, still praying to God, eating healthy, doing things that I know are going to help me, so I can show up for her in the best way that I can, regardless of the feelings and the emotions that I feel throughout my day.
A lot of the things you just said really resonated with me, and I just know exactly what that feels like. And I had a different experience than you, but I was married when I got pregnant, but I didn't even know if I really wanted kids. And I was on birth control and all the things. And I was in that 1% chance that you get pregnant. And so when I got pregnant, I remember having these feelings. It was almost like I was mourning my old life.
Old self,
yeah. That I knew I was going to lose and never have back, you know? And so yeah, that really resonated with me because I've experienced those things, and then you feel guilty for feeling that way.
Yeah.
And then it's just this continuous cycle of the mom guilt. You're not alone, and I'm really glad you shared that. I was going to ask you, you mentioned postpartum. Did you struggle with that at all?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still struggling with that. I feel like postpartum is not just an overnight thing where it's like, oh, I'm better now. It's gonna take a lot of time, because I feel like all of us human beings are constantly in our thoughts and our emotions and our mind. We're always feeling some kind of way. We're always experiencing some kind of feelings or whatever it is. And I feel like it gets worse after you have a child, because now, once again, it's like your time and your energy and your focus is to them, that sometimes I feel like you lose yourself. You're trying to figure out how to have time for yourself, to take care of yourself, and even if it's like to go outside for a little bit and breathe some fresh air, or go on a walk, or go to the gym, whatever it is. I feel like those things help you mentally. They help you so that you can stay strong. But I will say that I have experienced depression because I've never experienced it in my life before. I never ever said like, oh, I'm depressed. Like I would always tell myself like I'm sad, but I'll be okay. I'm gonna get over this. But once again, everything I went through, I feel like in the past, even though I know that you have to let go of the past, I feel like I haven't forgiven myself for what I did in the moment, and for allowing the things that I allowed in my life, because I knew better. And I have a relationship with God, and I feel like God gives you discernment of certain things. He speaks to you in certain ways, and he gives you the gift of the Holy Spirit. And I don't know if you guys have felt that way, but when something's telling you, hey, don't do that, or hey, this is not right for you, or hey, whatever it is, So I felt like that in the moment, but I never listened. And now looking back, I always think about those things, and they're always playing in my mind, like, oh, like, why didn't you just let go of what you had to let go of? Or why did you stay there, knowing that it wasn't right for you and it wasn't helping you in life and it was just holding you back? I live in my past a lot, which is something that I know that we shouldn't be doing. And also grieving my past version of myself, right? Because I was always such a person like with routine and getting things done, and like I was always going to the gym and like so active and always trying to help people. Like I always felt this drive inside of me, and now I don't feel that way. I'm trying my best every day. Now, to have time for myself, I literally have to like sacrifice sleep, because obviously my time is my baby's. So I have to wake up earlier than her to stretch or to spend time in silence and, pray to God and read my Bible and journal. I feel like those things help me out to help me keep my mental health on check. I feel like I also allow negative thoughts to come in, and as someone who has a relationship with God, I believe it's the enemy trying to feed you these negative things. You're not worthy enough. You're not capable. You're not enough. All these negative things, at the end of the day, we all feel different negative emotions, but I always feel like I'm always being told, like, you're a failure, you failed. I feel like I failed my family in some kind of way. I know that they don't think that about me. They love me. I have a really amazing support system, but I also feel like I failed myself in life. That's how I feel. Once again, it has nothing to do with my child. It has to do with my choices and my decisions that I made in life.
Katherine, as you're talking, it reminded me, my husband and I were talking this week, and I opened the salon when my twins were 2. And the day after I signed the lease on my building, I found out I was pregnant with my 3rd. And to say that I was upset is an understatement. Like, I was so upset because I was finally following my dream.
Yeah.
And I was going to do it with my 2 kids. And then I found out I was pregnant. And I really struggled with that the whole time I was pregnant. And I was talking to my husband, and I opened the salon. It opened when I was 6.5 months pregnant. And I worked until a Tuesday, and he was born on Thursday. And then 3 weeks later, I remember feeling some postpartum. And I went back and did 1 client, and I felt like myself again. So I strapped him to my chest, and I wore him, and I did hair. And I nursed while my clients were processing, and I survived. But I was talking to my husband, and I said, the more I think about it, the more I regret that. I regret going back to work so soon and not spending that time with my babies.
Yeah.
And he said to me, you didn't have a choice. He's like, if you didn't work, we couldn't have made it. You're being hard on yourself for something that you're not remembering the full story. He goes, financially, we couldn't do it on 1 income. You carried us through that time because you could. That wasn't my memory because we have no grace with ourselves. Yeah. But I also wanted to tell you, and I try not to give advice because I'm the last person that should be giving advice, right?
We always feel that way.
Yeah. As a mom, if your daughter came to you and said, Mom, I'm pregnant, kind of like you had to do with your mom.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of sadness, I think. I think I personally would feel a little bit of sadness for what that meant for her life because it gets harder.
Yeah.
But the disappointment that you're describing God having with you and you having with you is not something I think that you would feel towards your daughter if she was in the same situation. God's love is not comparable to ours. So the love that you have for your daughter overwhelms you, right?
Yes.
God's love is infinitely more than that. And I think God's grace is also infinitely more than that. So this standard that you're holding yourself to is not coming from God.
No, I agree.
I don't think he sees you in the eyes that you're seeing yourself. And I think we need to have some grace with ourselves. Because the only people that we are this down on is ourselves.
Yes, I agree.
And I think how we feel about ourselves would make God sad. Because he doesn't want his children to be tearing ourselves down. So I hope you can remember that when you start to feel like you disappointed God, because I don't think you did. And I don't think you have.
That was really beautiful. I love that. I love how you describe that because I never seen it like that. And I know that I think at the end of the day, I feel like it comes down to forgiving myself and just accepting my new reality for what it is, It comes back to like grieving your old past, like your past self. But you're right. Like God's love is infinite, and it's about giving yourself grace every day and reminding yourself this is exactly where I need to be. Stop trying to live in the past. Stop trying to think about what life could have been then when you're in the now. You need to figure out how you can navigate and create and build a new life and build a new version of yourself now with the wisdom that you've gained from the experience that you went through, And that's what I feel like I'm going through right now. Like, yeah, I'm hard on myself because it's so recent and I never expected it. But yeah, when I look at my daughter, I remind myself she is the biggest gift I've ever had in life, and I need to learn to love her and nurture her and just find ways to be a new woman by her side and through God's grace and love.
I was thinking about everything you're saying is just really, really resonating with me. And I know that we have different experiences and different stories, but I think that when you're a mom, I think we go through a lot of things that are very similar,
Yeah.
And even when I feel like I've convinced myself that I'm there is no way that this sounds terrible. I love my children too. But like there are still times now, and I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old that I will like tell myself, what the crap did I do? Like this is sucky. But the thing is I think that's just life. I mean, it's never going to be 100% easy.
Yeah.
In fact, I haven't found that really any of my life as of recent has been easy. But you know, that's what ends up making it worth it. We wouldn't grow, we wouldn't progress if it weren't hard. Yeah, because that's how we learn stuff along the way. It's bringing back all of these like feelings in my heart that I haven't really thought about in a long time. And so I really feel for you, because I don't know how much of the podcast you've listened to, but
Yeah.
I just really, 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 really struggled.
Yeah,
And
I heard that you went through a lot of depression.
Yes, a lot. And it's so, and I definitely was like prone to that. I struggled with it before, you know,
Yeah.
so that, I think that made it even worse. But someone asked me the other day if it was worth it. And I'm like, well, that's a loaded question. But I mean, obviously, I love my children more than anything, and I would die for them. So yeah, it was worth it. Would I want to go through it again? No. But I just think that when you said that you just have so much respect for women now. My husband, my first pregnancy, it was obviously my first experience. So they always say that like when it's like your first time being pregnant, it's like you're the first person in the world that's ever been pregnant. That's how you talk about being pregnant, you know? So I was that person. I was literally just like, oh my gosh, this hurts and this hurts. And talking to, yeah, that's right. That's right. I literally talked about being pregnant like no one else had been pregnant before. It was crazy. I just really didn't know, obviously, what was coming or what to expect. And I'm grateful that I didn't, but it's been such a journey learning about myself. And I think sometimes I like think about that person that didn't have kids, didn't have any other responsibilities other than myself, and felt so carefree and full of life and all these things. And I remember having this feeling of, gosh, I wish I could be her again. And I was talking to someone, I don't know if it was my husband or maybe it was my therapist, but they were like, you're remembering that whole thing different. Yeah, you were carefree. Yeah, you had less responsibilities. Yeah, you know, more independence. But you also were, you still struggled with depression. You were really insecure as, you know, just as a human, and you didn't feel fulfilled, and you had all these struggles. So it wasn't this picture perfect thing that you remember, right? And so then I started kind of thinking, and I was like, you know what? The crap that I've been through over the last 2 years has turned me into a person with so much more depth and so much more feeling than that carefree person that I used to be. And so I guess what I'm saying is, when you were talking about, you know, that the life that you mourn or that you grieve, I think like I still feel that sometimes and still have glimpses of that. But then I think I've had little epiphanies along the way that I'm like, I'm so much better now. I really am. I have so much to offer the world because of what I've gone through, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just know that you're the same way. Like you're going to, and I'm sure you can already do that because you seem to have a really good head on your shoulders, but you're going to have the same epiphanies that I think it'll be hard to completely get over that feeling of maybe a tinge of sadness, right?
Yeah.
For your old life, but I think that's normal. And I think that you're totally right. You have a lot of beautiful things ahead of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I also feel like it's not to make motherhood and being a parent a bad thing, because I feel like when we share what we experience. People are like, okay, then I don't want kids, or I don't want to have them. You're making it seem like it's this bad thing. But I feel like until you're in the moment of it, you'll know what it feels like because of what you're experiencing as a parent. Because your life changes like so much. Like you're not just independent no more. It's not just about you no more. It's not your world and you live in it, right? It's now your baby, and now what you have to do for them to take care of them, nurture them, and make sure they're okay. Like it's about them now. But what is hard is trying to figure out how you can make it about both of you, living day to day and making it about both of you, and still trying to figure out how you can be someone in life. A lot of us have goals and aspirations. Like you said, you had a baby and you were still nursing your baby and working at your barbershop, which is crazy that you were doing that, but I give you props for that, and you're a very strong woman for that. But we still have to make things happen in life, right? We still have to work, we still have to pay bills. Personally, I just feel like since I felt like there's something in me, like something bigger to do something in life, I feel like I got pulled away from it, and I feel like sometimes I get those thoughts like you're never gonna make it happen. You failed, like you're just never gonna get there. But I think it's about finding ways to still get there, but with my new life. And that's what I'm trying to process and now try to do in my day-to-day life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, I like what you said about like how you missed this person that you were, like this happy and fulfilled and person with yourself when you didn't before you had kids. I always think about that, and when I think about like my past version of myself, yes, I miss my independence. I think about like, was I really the best version of myself then? Was I going to become the person that I aspire to become? Because when I was living in California, I was distracted by a lot of things and pulled back by things. And I feel like if you put it into a spiritual perspective, it was the enemy tempting me to do things that I shouldn't be doing, and also like pulling me back away from the things that God has planned for me. I feel like, maybe they are God's plans, because sometimes there are plans and then sometimes they're God's plans. It's hard to know whose plans they are. But anyway, I know this is very personal to share, but I feel like if someone can resonate with it, it's for that person. But I was doing a lot of things that I shouldn't do. I was lusting and I was smoking weed. And I couldn't let go of that. Like I couldn't let go of those things, and I was being pulled back by it. I feel like if it wasn't for God to bring me my blessing, which is my baby, I would have still been a part of those things, and maybe I would have never become the best version of myself, because I was so caught up in the things, in all these worldly things and worldly distractions that pull you back from becoming the person that God wants you to be in his eyes, because we live in a world full of sin and full of distractions and so much chaos. But there's a godly world and there's a worldly world, right? And the point is to seek God and to pursue God and keep him at the center of your life. And sometimes it's hard to do that when you're being tempted by all these worldly things, right? So I feel like, yes, I went through what I went through with having a baby with someone who wasn't going to be a part of my life. I was lusting and I was playing around with relationships, and I didn't ever have a beautiful relationship with a partner, because looking back at like my family background and everything, how my parents got divorced and how my dad was into my life, and the abandonment that I had in my life. He was gone like since I was like younger. He's in my life now, but it still feels that way because we don't have like such a close relationship, but I love him no matter what, right? Because he's my father and I should respect him no matter what. But I just feel like I always seeked the love and wanting to be like loved and cared for from like by a man. So I feel like I did the wrong things, and I was seeking that in the wrong people, if that makes sense. Like I was trying to look for love and to be comforted, but yeah, I was being treated wrong and poorly, and I was just putting myself in relationships that I didn't belong in. And I know a lot of people tell me, but you're such a beautiful woman, like you look like you have your head on your shoulders, but a lot of us have trauma, and a lot of us have issues that we go through that nobody knows about, you know, until they see, or until you share with them. I've never really shared that with anybody. I feel like a lot of people tell me like, oh, trauma's not real, or like, abandonment issues is not real. They try to just say, like, dismiss what I feel inside of me. I feel like people in my family, like the older generation, feel like that's not really a real thing because they never learned about those things, right? But my point is, I feel like I'm here for a reason, and there's, like, God's gonna bring purpose out of this. There's purpose out of my experience. I'm not just gonna live like this forever and dwell on all the things that happened to me and all the negative, and dwell on all the what could have been if I didn't do what I did. But I feel like you were saying earlier, they're all learning and growth experiences. If we don't go through what we go through, then we're never gonna become the person that we're meant to be in this world, you know? Our experiences and our pain and our failures are what teach us in life and what make us wiser and stronger people, you know?
Absolutely. I think that I understand the mourning of what our life was. I'm on the different side of things where my kids are older and they're leaving the house.
Yeah.
And so my perspective's a little bit different. But we're mourning people that we've lost, and I'm validating that. But the people that we're becoming because of our children is a better person. I've always been ambitious and I've always been driven, but I didn't have enough self-love for myself to fulfill my potential. As soon as my kids came into my life, I've never found a bigger motivation than to create a beautiful life for them. A lot of people struggle with self-love to the point where they can't believe in themselves, so they give up on themselves, or they let their traumas run their life.
Yeah.
For me, when I had my kids, it made me be the best version of myself, and it made me become the person I'm supposed to be because I wanted what's best for them. But I don't think I ever could have at that age found the self-love to do that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that version that we lose is meant to be lost.
Yes.
Because we're reborn into this divine being that loves, like no love can be matched from a mom to her kids. There was a story when my kids were young, and you guys are probably too young to, I think I found it in National Geographic. I know you guys don't know what that is. It was a magazine. You guys might not even know what a magazine is.
Yeah, we do.
Anyways, there was this story, and I'm from Montana, and we always have wildfires in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And after the wildfires, the firefighters have to go through and kick over bunches of tinders and to make sure that it doesn't reignite.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there was a firefighter walking through a forest that had been burned down, and he saw this petrified bird that had been burned in the fire. And he went to kick it over, and underneath her were her babies.
Oh my gosh.
And the babies were not harmed. He kicked her over and they scurried away. And that resonated so much to me, because I think the person I was before I had kids would not have sacrificed anything for anybody, because I was my number one priority.
Mm-hmm.
But that story resonated with me because if I had the opportunity to physically save my children, or if it ever came down to a choice of my children or me, it will always be my children. If I had the choice to trade places with Elia, if I had the chance to take his pain away, or to trade places You wouldn't even have to ask me. I would happily volunteer. Motherhood is the most rewarding and fulfilling thing that you will ever do in your life. And it's also the hardest. And it's okay to admit that it's hard. Because that doesn't make you less of a woman or less of a mother.
I've always really admired the relationship that you have with your children. That's always been something that I've really admired about you, because I kind of I feel like I got to see you in different settings with your children, and I always just really admired how you interacted with them, how you treated them. I could see this immense love coming from you, even just by the way that you talked about them. Still, I said that in past tense, but you still, it's the same way. And it just made me think, like, that's something that I want so badly. I want to have these daughters that love me and know that I'll protect them no matter what, and that I feel this intense bond with them as well. And that doesn't come easy, you know. And I've always known, you know, you hear it all the time, that nothing worth it ever comes easy, or whatever the saying is. And in the moments where I'm at home with my girls and they're screaming and crying, and my 1-year-old is pulling at my leg, and I literally feel like I'm gonna explode because I'm so overstimulated, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. And then I'll bend over and grab my daughter and just hold her and calm her down. And I mean, that's all she wants. She just wants me to hold her all the time. And I think that the intense bond and relationships through motherhood, like, they wouldn't be as special and as strong if it was just easy all the time, you know? And when you were telling the story about your salon, I'm like, gosh, that is the most Brandy thing I have ever heard. Yeah, literally, that is you to a T. But yes, and literally, that's why you have this, because you were surviving together. And that's why your kids love you so much, and you love your kids so much. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing. And it teaches me a lot. So
I think about mothers like that, because there's moms who can't have babies, who are trying and they just can't. There's people who lose their children, and they would do anything to have their children in their lives. And so I always have grace for those women, and I always tell myself, like you said, like, nothing worth having is easy, and motherhood is the greatest gift of life, no matter what. Like, obviously our children come from God, and he gives us the blessing, and like, just thinking about the fact that we can create life in our stomach is, like, crazy and insane to me. Like, I always just think about, like, how there's parents and mothers out there who just would love to be in my shoes, who would love to be a mom, who would love to raise a child and hear their baby cry and, wake up for their child. So, yeah, I always tend to remind myself that when I have a moment of difficulty, or when I have a moment of, like, I can't do this no more, it just gets so overwhelming. What do I do? I just breathe and remind myself, like you were explaining how you love your kids can get a little overwhelming, but just knowing that they're relying on you because you're their mother and they want your love and they want your care and nurture. I remind myself that, and I look at my baby and I'm like, everything's okay. This is the best gift that God can give me in life. It was life-changing and it was a big shift in my life, but better's gonna come through motherhood, because once again I look at mothers and I'm like, they're so strong. Mothers are literally like super women. They just get everything done. They go above and beyond for their children. And when I look at my mom, I'm like, my mom has literally done the most for me. She's never said no to me. She's always helped me out when I needed a hand. She's always been there for me when I'm feeling down. I am 24 years old and I still rely on my mom till this day. I feel like I'm never gonna not rely on her, and I love my mom so much and I love her unconditionally, and that's the kind of love that I want my daughter to feel when she looks at me and when she thinks of me, you know? And when I look at my mom and I see the warrior that she is, I'm like, I want to be just like my mom. Me, my siblings admire her and love her so much for the woman that she is. And she's like our number one. Besides God being the center of our life, our mom is our everything. And that's exactly how I want my daughter to feel. And that is my goal moving forward in life, you know?
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you have the opportunity to feel loved and taken care of. And there's nothing that teaches you better how to be a mom than by having a mom that shows that to you.
Katherine, we're so glad that you were able to come here and share your story with us and your perspective. I think that for like a first-time new mom, under the circumstances that you're under, like your perspective and clarity is pretty impressive. I think it really like teaches me. I feel like in this interaction that I just had so many like aha moments that I honestly feel like every single episode is for me. It's literally for me. Like God's like, come on, I'm trying to teach you something. But I just truly feel like I say this every time. I know it's redundant, but people are amazing. Women are amazing. Mothers, I mean, I'm just really grateful we got to discuss this topic because it's something that I think is near and dear to all of our hearts. And I'm just really grateful for you sharing your perspective with us.
Of course, and I'm very grateful myself for you guys giving me the opportunity to be here and to share my story with whoever it resonates with. I'm very grateful.
You're so welcome.
And for our listeners out there, I think after today's episode, we want to encourage you guys to reach out to somebody in your life who has been your rock. Reach out to them today and let them know what they've done for you. Sometimes we just don't know who needs to hear it. So thank you all so much for being with us another week, and we will see you next week.
See ya.
See